Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 4C Marketplace podcast. I'm your host, Uskar Ibrahim. Today we have as our guest, Andy Beck. Andy Beck is the owner of Viper Imaging LLC, a drone company committed to conducting inspections for the oil and gas industry. Without further ado, Andy, do you want to take this chance to introduce yourself and introduce your company?
Yeah, my name's Andy Beck. My business partner, Rich Shannon, and I started Viper a little over 4 years ago. Our background has really always been in the infrared business. Right. So, we're a little different in that we came from a technology that wasn't based around the drones. We came from an industry that really gave information about temperature data back to customers. So, right. In that infrared realm, it's really a preemptive product to what we see the drones in a lot of respects. The first ones to come out were pretty sketchy when they worked. They were really expensive, and a lot of people thought that they needed them, but they weren't sure how to use them and how to apply them. And it was, there was some risk there of how they were going to do it. So that's kind of how we've grown up in that industry to where now it's pretty mature, and you can get them at your local Lowe's and Home Depot, for that matter, as far as an infrared camera or your Apple store. That's kind of how we've seen that mature over time. As we started our company, again, around this thermal imaging business, what we found were our customers have always been in the heavy industrial space. So oil and gas, power generation, metals like steel mills, guys like that, dirty, nasty places. That's kind of where we've always been. And as we've started into that business, we saw people having the need for the information that you get out of an infrared camera from a different perspective. And that perspective was aerially. So that led us down the drone path to where we've evolved and changed a lot, just like every other drone industry, every other drone company over the past several years, especially the past 5 years, to where we are now. And we're continuing to evolve into where we're going to be in another 5 years. But most of it's been based on that infrared side of the business.
Right. So I guess kind of to circle back on what you just said, you guys started out full IR camera. I believe I looked in your background. All things kind of tend to lead to FLIR at times. So I saw that you worked for FLIR for a bit.
Yeah. Actually, my background before that was in automation.
Right.
So we did some machine vision, custom built stuff. For the foundry industry, and just happened upon a job selling cameras for this little company called FLIR. Right. That was almost 20 years ago. So that they started that business, that's where I started in that business. Worked for a competitor and integrator throughout that time, but have since kind of come back into working with FLIR.
Right. And for those of the audience that may or may not know, I'm assuming most people know, FLIR is a pretty big player in the IR camera realm, providing that IR solution to not just drone players, but everyone basically in the oil and gas sector. So pretty interesting. And it seems like, as you're right, the genesis of the drone industry kind of started with the IR camera. So kind of going back, you mentioned really how you guys differ in a sense. Mm-hmm. You're not scared by any means, it seems, to go into, as you put, some just dirty places that right. Yep. have a different level of hazards to get a job done for people. So in your own words, how do you guys really differentiate yourself from a lot of your competitors in terms of what you want to provide, your values, and how you bring value to your customer?
Yeah, I would say that it's been, our ability to learn is kind of what's differentiated us. As the presentation we're given at the 4C conference is actually about as much about the failures that we've had along the way, right. Because I think that's really where you learn.
Absolutely.
to get to where we are today, and also realize our shortcomings. So, where we've kind of come from that is we saw a need, again, infrared cameras on a drone. They just didn't seem to fit together. Specifically when we started talking about the oil and gas market. Right. A large population of the listeners are going to have a FLIR GF camera. Mm-hmm. They're going to have this handheld OGI camera system. I don't know what the percentage is of FLIR's market share, but it's really high. And having one of those cameras or having an automation style camera similar to that, to be able to mount that on a drone, that just wasn't really a possible thing.
Right.
Just as such a heavy lifter, and really, how do you get the information out of it? So we saw that as a niche of our customers saying, we want to have this same technology, but we want to have it in the air. So what we do really is we try to solve problems. So that was a problem that we tried to solve. We've really screwed it up a couple times in the past on some things, and that's what you learn from. If you don't, we will actually show crashed images. During our presentation, we're not afraid to show that. Nothing was harmed, thankfully, but at the same time, we've kind of seen, all right, what really is needed to be out there is something that is easy to fly, but gives you the same controls as a handheld camera on the ground. So.
Right.
Because it's all about the information. That's really our end goal, is partnering with companies in the oil and gas sector, in all the other dirty, nasty environments, of saying, at the end of the day, what do you need? What's the information that you need? All right, well, let's provide a means to do that. So our focus was primarily, really, for the first 3 years, on building a system, or a set of systems that could give you that information. And some of that information was OGI based, optical gas imaging based. Some of it was straight up thermal data, and some of it was visual mapping. So we've kind of expanded on that side of it for a while. And then where we've really differentiated ourselves recently is we've partnered with a company called My Drone Services. And through that partnership, we've really built up our ability to not only go to customers and say, all right, here is a way for you to solve this problem by buying X equipment, whatever this equipment is, however it fits. But we've also been able to say, or you can just buy the data and we'll go out and do that service for you.
Right.
So it's really combining both those to give the customer the answer, but to give them some options in getting that answer.
No, absolutely. There's, as with any kind of like newer type of technology, and bringing that into a space like oil and gas, where MOC exists and it takes a long time to implement kind of newer technologies or processes. Having that flexibility is key, I'm sure, and being able to kind of transition, saying like, this is, there's no such thing as what we want to do. There's kind of like what the customer wants us to do and how we can provide that to them, right?
Right. Yeah, and we've seen that over time come about. Because the transition in the UAV and the drone industry is so quick.
Right.
From model to model, it's not like it used to be with the cameras, a 2 or 3 year cycle time. Most products, they'll come up with something new every 2 or 3 years. This can be every 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
It's a game changer or something different coming down the pipe.
The delivery platform and the batteries. Better.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we have today is not what we'll be selling at Christmas.
Right.
It'll be something different, which is a great thing, but it can be frustrating for customers. So I think that's been part of the reason why it's been a little slow for customers to get into it, because the moment you buy something, you're obsolete.
Right. So there's an education aspect of it in terms of keeping them up to date.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's educating them, say, hey, this is what's happening right now, but also setting that expectation of this is going to transition as it goes.
Right.
So with a lot of our customers, we're like, the core technology, the camera that you're buying, which is the largest cost, that's really not going to change that much. The camera that we use on our UAV system is the same detector that's been used in that GF series camera for almost 10 years now.
Right. Because, thermography and thermography practices don't change, right? It's just the platform that's changing.
Yeah. Physics stays the same. So you've got physics to work with at all times. But, the speed at which that changes doesn't change as fast as the UAV itself. So what we're starting to see some customers be a little more reactive to the service side of the business for now. So let's get that data that we need. And then just like anything else, all right, once we have that data, then they begin to rely on that data. All right, let's bring that in-house. So we try to, again, our goal is to service the customer with information.
Right.
So beginning, it's probably going to be services to help them understand, what their problems may be. And then once they're monitoring those, give them the ability and train them on how they can use that equipment.
Absolutely.
So, we're really trying to work ourselves out of a job.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're working with things that have an automated aspect to it, drones by themselves, are an automation type of solution. So that's not too far off in terms of your assessment there.
Right. Yeah.
we talk about, I guess I got a really good, distinct understanding of how you guys focus, and basically provide that value to your customers, but um, with a focus on information and making sure that they just have either one, the information to make the decision on adopting that technology, or information to make the decision on their actual process that they're using that technology for.
Mhm.
Um, so, in regards to information, for you personally, what's been the biggest insight that you've gained since working with this industry throughout your whole career?
Whew. Well, I mean, I think the biggest insight, I don't know if it's insight or just the thing I've learned, is just to be patient with a lot of this stuff.
Right.
I mean, I think there is with anything, we all want to run out there and say, all right, quad OA means this now, so we've got to do this. And it's like, well, are they really going to do that, or where's that going to go? And trying to understand and be patient, say, all right, what are the best practices that we need to put in place to, you want to expect what's going to happen, because most of our customers they're trying to make a product, they're trying to do it in a good manner that's good for the environment and all those good things. But at the same time, they want to make sure that they're planning proactively, but not reactively.
Right.
And so a lot of that's just being patient. That goes all the way back to, hey, DJI just launched another system this week. Oh, okay. Well, that means we got to change everything. Well, let's just see how that fleshes itself out to what really works for the customer. So, I mean, I think patience has been a big thing of as we've had to look in this industry. One of the things that it has to be our overarching theme.
Yeah.
And everything is, let's be patient, see what's going to happen. But at the same time, there has to be some steps that are made. So
Right.
there are some things that I agree. The first couple of years, it's probably you had the pre-early adopters that were really out there, people that weren't early adopters. So I mean, we're having to step through that process, but there have to be steps that are taken.
Do you still believe that we're still in that early adoption phase of leveraging drone technology for inspections?
I think we've moved. I think we're right on the edge of the early adopters to getting to a little more of a larger scale adoption of it.
Right.
But it depends so much on the solution that you're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain things that just happen that make sense, that are no-brainers. If
Right.
you're going to be doing some mapping of a system, then yeah, it makes absolute perfect sense to use a drone to do
Right.
some of that stuff.
Right.
If you're doing some inspection of, you've got 40 wellheads that you need to inspect, and you're driving around all over the place and it takes you 10 days to do it, then you probably are an early adopter if you say, I'm going to get a drone, I'm going to stand on a hill, and I'm going to do 10 a day.
Yeah.
So you can kind of speed some things up. That is definitely still in the early adopter stage. So I think there's a transition of the whole industry itself is pretty broad.
So in terms of the streams, if you will, in oil and gas, which one do you think is adopted faster, and which one's the slowest? Whether it be like upstream, downstream, or midstream?
Yeah, I think upstream is probably the greatest potential to adopt really quick.
Yeah.
There are a limiting number of factors that you can do on the midstream and downstream side of things. There's guys in place that are walking around with a GF camera that can cover a lot of optical gas imaging leaks. They
Right.
can look for methane all day long, and they're going to be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
But when you're out, in the upstream in the field, you need to cover a little more ground. You need to take advantage of some of those things that a drone can get you.
Right.
Also, just the way it's expanded, looking at mapping applications and looking at environmental impact studies. I mean, a lot of that because of the broader, acreage that's required.
Yeah.
It just makes perfect sense for a drone.
Absolutely. And then there are some, regulatory hurdles, which kind of leads me to my next question, which may be regulatory or maybe technology for you. I'm not sure. But what do you think is the one thing that's going to have the greatest impact on the industry over the next few years?
I think if I kind of step back to the beginning when we were talking about what we try to do is help customers gather the information that they need. I think the
Right.
biggest impact is going to be as we can take all of that, big data, if you will, because you're just getting tons of data in. You've got GIS overlays, you've got aerial inspections and panoramas, and all this data is, as we can get that and boil that information down into 2 or 3 critical factors that a person can look at and see the health of their system, to see the productivity of their system. And that's really what we try to help customers work on, is like, all right, yes, you can see all these things. Yes, you can get all that information. Yeah, sure, you can fly that thing every week. But what do you really need to see? What's going to give you an indication? If we start putting this information into a GIS system or into some type of thermal trending software, what's that really going to give you as far as making a decision so that you can meet the regulations that you need to meet the production goals you need to meet, and meet the really the corporate goals that are set out there for each one of us.
Right. So connecting that raw data into actual actionable insight, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it.
That's awesome. Really great perspective. And I think that wraps us up for our interview. If I can ask, what's next for Viper? What do you guys really focus on over the next few years?
So, we're constantly trying to adapt our portfolio of products to make them smaller, faster, fly longer, more customer friendly, if you will.
Right.
But at the same time, we're also ramping up quite a bit on our services side, because what we're seeing, that's the need that we're getting from customers.
Right.
And the products that we're developing, I feel like they're going to be almost more in-house products for us and for our service team as they go out and help people start up programs, to help train guys, help bring them into their own as far as being able to maintain everything. So that's our big growth spurt is leveraging people and some of that technology.
Awesome. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, a mixture of not just technology, but services. Andy, if our audience wants to find you and Viper, where's the best place to do that?
Best place is probably go to viper-drones.com. That's got all our data in there. You can follow us on every means of social media, Facebook, Instagram. We've got a LinkedIn account I can forward over to you. We're posting constantly, trying to get just general information out in the field, as well as we're always open for questions.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps us up for today. Andy, as he mentioned earlier, his team will be at the 4C conference doing a presentation in the emerging technology track, as well as exhibiting. Andy, with that, thank you very much for your time today, and we look forward to keeping up with the Viper drone stories.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.